And when we discuss issues of China's development in the context of these two sessions, we are also looking at new challenges. I would like to ask Mr. Muhammad Saqib in Delhi, how does he view this historic transformation which has been led by climate change, environmental concerns, that this energy transition, because this affects not just China, but it affects the whole world, particularly the global south.
And most of the damage is done to global south through this environmental disasters and all. And somehow, whether China accepts it or not, but a lot of global south countries think that not only global south's environmental problem, but global south's all problems and all. They see China some kind of a in a leadership role for everything. And whatever China could do as an individual country and as help to the environment, they have been doing it. So you must see this environmental blockage from the West to China is it's an overall, stop China strategy of of the West. And I think if China and including the other like China, India, South Africa, Brazil, all the big countries, if they come together with the other global South countries and all, probably then we can mitigate some of the disasters which are likely to happen. This thing, but the China will have to take the lead in this.
Mr. Arnaud Bertrand in France, we see still a lot of criticism of China in the West. Now they accuse China of green overcapacity. That's a new theme they have built up. Yes, China is the leader in green development. Yes, China is a leader in electric vehicles, which is good for a clean and green environment. But there's overcapacity and solar panels and so forth. So what is your take on that and the Western critique of China's green development initiatives? Monsieur Arnaud Bertrand.
It's basically a way of saying that they're outcompeted, basically, and it's a justification to put barriers. Because when you think about it, overcapacity is a bit of a strange concept. What it basically means is that China will be producing more than it needs, or that the market can absorb. But when you look at what China is producing, and when you look at the scale of the challenge, climate change, right? China is actually not producing enough at all. If we wanted to take this problem seriously, if we wanted to really transition from an energy mix that is still very much dominated by oil and gas, then we will need probably to produce like 10 times what we are producing today, China included. So overcapacity is a strange way of putting it, when actually when you look at the challenge, there is critical undercapacity. Actually, the big chunk of EVs that China exports to the West is actually Western brands, like Tesla, for instance. Tesla is the biggest by number of cars. It's the most EVs that China exports to Europe. So the problem is not so much overcapacity. The problem is more with those brands. Actually, why do they choose to produce and manufacture their cars in China rather than in Europe? And so it's more questions about Europe's competitiveness in terms of manufacturing for those industry, rather than overcapacity in China. So this whole narrative, no matter how you look at it, it makes quite little sense, actually.
And Professor Ricardo, You are in Brazil, and Brazil in 2025 will be hosting COP30. So, how do you view China's green development model? Can it be a global benchmark for global climate change? And what will be its impact in the forthcoming COP30 conference, which your country, Brazil, will be hosting later this year in 2025?
That's a very good point, Senator Mushahid, especially because after President of U.S. Donald Trump announced that the U.S. That it will cease participation on the Paris Agreement, the Brazilian ambassador Andrea Correa do Lago, who is the chairman of the COP30, already informed that it may change the fact that U.S. will cease participation in the Paris Agreement will change substantially how things will work during the COP30, which will be held here in the north of Brazil in the end of this year, in the end of 2025. As you said, China is a global benchmark for the green development. Brazil imported, roughly speaking, 4.3 billion US dollars in terms of electric vehicles from China in 2024. And the ranking was of 13th most imported product from China in 2023 to the top fourth most imported product from China to Brazil, which was an increase of 108%. But as I mentioned before, the basis of the relationship between China and Brazil is always consists of mutual benefits, reciprocity, and also win-win situation. And it's a good opportunity also for other countries to get in touch and intensify the exchange with China in order to implement these new technologies in the other countries.
I would like to move on to Africa now, to our friend Dr. Fred Mumbai in Zambia, that how does he view this Green Development Initiative of China and its implications for Africa, which is also one of the key components of the Global South?
I personally think that solar energy should be of great importance to the development of Africa. And I'm also very interested in a recent development. Recently, there has been another important technological development. The Tianjin Institute of Industrial Biotechnology of the Chinese Academy of Sciences is testing the large-scale production of starch synthesized from carbon dioxide. I don't know much about this technology, but in principle, if Africa can use solar power on a large scale to generate electricity and then convert the electricity into food in some form, in some way, it is hoped that Africa can tackle seriously its hunger problem. Or I can say hunger in Africa can be completely solved. But there's hypocrisy here, especially from the West. On the one hand, they are calling us to reduce carbon emissions. On the other hand, they are not providing Africa with the green energy solutions needed. Most of the green energy solutions we're having in Africa are coming from China, are with Chinese assistance. There is too much talk, but very little action on the green energy from the West.
Thank you, Dr. Fred Mumbai, for your answers.